This is Saturday, September 21st, 2013. Marilyn channeling.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Martha. Hi, Martha.
It is so good to be back and working again and to be able to see you people. And I'm doing the work, and I'm glad you're here for it. And I just loved hearing Elvis. It's been a long time.
It has been a while.
So we're back on track. Marilyn had some time that she had to regroup emotionally and spiritually, and now things are going smoother. And so we're back to be here and glad to be here and glad for that everybody showed up today.
We're glad to be here.
Too.
Wonderful
So,
to be here.
welcome back, and I'm going to have John come in.
Thank
Toodaloo.
you.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo. Thank you, Martha.
Good afternoon. I'm John the Divine,
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon, John.
and I'm glad to be here with you people, and I see familiar faces. These are people that you've all been here before, and thank you for coming back.
I'm glad to be here.
And I'm glad to see Darcy again. It's been a while.
Yes.
And Mac, thank you for your help.
I want to thank you for the suggestion about Epsom salts. It's really pulled that out of my leg.
Well, I'm so glad you followed through with the directions. So often people come to the healing, but they don't actually take the action to help the remedy work in their system, or the advice actually help their recovery. So I'm glad that you followed through. Thank you, Mac, for giving me that feedback.
You're most welcome.
And I'm glad I could help you. And Herlinda, we're glad to see you today.
It's nice to be here.
And Arnold, I want to thank you for the help that you've been providing.
It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you, John.
Well, I appreciate everything you do to help promote this, and I want you to know that things are coming along, and thanks to your help that we're going to make some progress. So that's very nice of you to chip in and be of service.
Thank you so much, John. And I'm taking that Bragg's apple cider vinegar and the
Oh,
honey as well. So thank you so much for that recommendation.
oh, and have you actually felt any difference from that?
Yes.
Good. It's a very good way to put your system back in being alkaline, and cancer does not like an alkaline system, so it should be very beneficial for you. I'm glad that you are doing that. Thank you for following through on my information.
Thank you so much.
Well, we are here this afternoon and offered, if people had questions, that we would be glad to entertain them today. So is there someone that came with a question?
I've got one, John.
All right.
Didn't expect the opportunity to ask it, but it has to do with Arnold. My visualization has not been good with Arnold, and I've been trying to determine how effective the healing is doing on the cancer of the prostate. I had one visualization that looked like it was beginning to break up the cancer.
I would suggest that you continue following through on your regular routine. Energy interferences will come along and create resistance, and not to let that interfere with your consistent effort. It is not because you're doing something wrong that the energy, this is typical of situations when people are changing and improving their lives. The fear can come back in to prohibit progress. The ego does not want to give up its stronghold and stranglehold on a situation that has been very predominantly in their grasp and control. And so it has nothing to do with your services. It has to do with those energies needing to be dissipated and released and moved out and moved beyond, so that it's no longer a hindrance. So this is part of the process of energy moving, that when you move forward in positive progression, that is typical for negative energy to interfere with the progress and say, no, I don't want this healing to occur, and to basically say thank you for the information, you can leave, just let it flow through. Don't take it seriously because it's just energy, and it's obviously energy you don't want to focus on because that will increase its power. So you actually want to not ignore it either. That's called denial. You want to just acknowledge that it's a message, but you can just let it leave. Say thank you for the information, and you can just flow out and leave, and I'll just continue my practice. Thank you. So you acknowledge it, but you don't give it any energy, and then continue on with what you were doing. And this is not untypical that people think of it as going backwards sometimes when that happens. Spiritually, there's never any going backwards. That's a myth that's been perpetuated. Years ago, there was a book, 2 Steps Forward and 1 Step Back, and that's actually not how spiritual energy flows. It always flows forward, so as you release the negative energy, new energy is moving in. And so just to discount the old energy as it leaves. And what is happening is that as you move into new energy and release what's blocking the newer continuing energy moving in, the energy is in a disarray. So it sometimes feels chaotic or out of order, disarranged, which means you've made headway, which means you're in a new cycle of growth. So if it comes in as you regroup and continue your process and meditation and healing techniques in your pranic healing, it's like what you do with your headaches, Mac. Just have the energy line up in order again and proceed. You might think of it as like how you handle headaches, and I know about that, where you've had so many people put the energy back into order so the energy can flow again. And that's basically what's happened, only in this case it's with cancer. Does that help to better understand what you've experienced?
I think it does. May I ask another question?
Yes, you may.
I get kind of emotional about this one. About a year ago, over a year, I worked with an infant. I don't remember the whole name, but I refer to her as Baby Tala. She lives in Wisconsin. And she had cancer of the kidneys. One kidney was totally shut down. The other one was barely working. I worked with her for quite some time until I was told to stop. I was told to stop when the kidney function of one kidney was up to 50%. And the cancer was gone on the second, but it wasn't functioning yet. I haven't received any reports on how that child is doing today. Can you tell me?
Oh my, yes. Give me a minute. She's still recuperating. It has been a slow recovery, but I see a happy face. She's toddling around. She's a very happy little girl. She's doing quite well considering the severity of the situation at her birth, but her energy around her, her parents have been, this was the beautiful part, they have been coming together in loving ways to help her be a happy little girl, and that energy and support not only has brought them together, but it has encouraged the health and energy of the child to be able to nurture it in a way that's not just food-wise, but spiritually, the spiritual nourishment that's necessary for health and recovery. And so they're coming along famously at this point. It has not totally disappeared because there's still some elements of recovery necessary, but it is much better. You definitely did lend a huge hand in getting her over a tremendous hurdle so that the body could heal itself, you might say.
That's basically what I was told, that because of the young age and the recuperative powers at that age, that I no longer needed to provide the energy, that it would heal on its own.
And so you've done a marvelous job. You have helped so many people with your remote healing, Mac. We, on this side, have great respect for your abilities and your perseverance and consistency. You are very reliable and responsible in that particular form of helping. And it is admirable how much energy and effort that you put into it. And most people would have not persevered like you have. And we want to give you the honor and the due that is coming to you for all the work that you do in this area. Whatever comes up, you are willing and able. It's like when the call comes, you are there for people. And that is, we salute you, Mac. You are indeed an admirable person. And we want you to know we appreciate your efforts. We work with you. Your guides and doctors are helping you in these efforts, as you know. But you have to create the first step so that we can assist you. And you always take that first step. So for that, we commend you highly and want you to know that today we would like to honor you.
Thank you, John. I have one more question concerning baby Tala.
All right.
When I first started working with her, I was intuitively informed that she came into this life to help the parents. That there was some karmic relationship between the parents, that they needed to become more open towards helping each other and others rather than self-centered. And her job was to help to have this disease, to allow them to focus their attention and their love on the baby. Is that basically correct?
Yes, it's very correct. You see, another part of how the dynamics of energy works is if you can take your focus off of the negative and find a distraction so that the negative isn't continuing to be fed energy that makes it empowered and grow and become even a bigger concern and crisis in your life. If you have a more appropriate focus, then the other issue can, through appropriate help, dissipate and not be the issue it was originally to motivate and cause difficulties, which often in the ultimate end up to be medical conditions and disease. So her coming into that lifetime was to take their focus off of their petty, you might say, petty issues, and put their energies into something more productive, into supporting their daughter and being there for her, giving her the care and concern and time that you would to a child, especially in her situation, needing lots of love and attention. You see, the more nurturing a child gets, the healthier they can grow up to be. And that was a much better focus because that energy then expands through all that attention given in a better, more appropriate place. And they have come to understand at this point, they have not, of course, resolved all their personal issues, but because of their coming together in this situation, it's like their other issues are not the focus of the destruction they were before, and they've come to understand that there is a better way to view situations and work in ways that are cooperative and come together in unity so that they are there as a support where it's important to be and give up more of their selfish, self-centered ways. So there has been much progress because of this situation, and you're helping that child to overcome the part that was really necessary for her to be able to grow and continue in a happy, healthier life, was to take their focus off of their old ideas and emotional pain and learn that they could have a happier, more joyous life, looking and helping the family come together in ways that would be good for all of them. And so you have, again, helped people in a way that maybe you didn't originally, was not your intention. But this is what happens when people become healed. They become, their presence is more loving and more giving and more open to receiving, and then they become a better person that they wanted to become, and you have assisted the parents in their spiritual growth by allowing the situation to move in the direction it has. So again, the byproducts of what they've learned, or you might call it the ripple effect, is becoming very obvious in their lives, and their family congeniality has definitely come to a better place than when it the first situations arose.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, John. I didn't try to do anything with the parents to interfere with what they had to do to overcome their problems. I was just trying to work with the baby, but I informed the grandmother that there were no guarantees, because so much depended upon what the parents did.
Exactly.
And it sounds like it's working. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you, John.
Well, the part that's interesting is because you kept to the focus of what you were asked to do, and you didn't overstep your bounds to try to save everybody, that allowed the parents to start to really initiate looking at themselves and taking the consequences for their actions and saying, is this what I truly want as a result to happen to me? Are those the consequences that are really in my best interest? And when they're allowed to make the changes themselves, they become permanent and substantial rather than just a superficial looking good change. And so you have done, again, something that is very important and vital when people can actually make their own decision to make their own conscious changes. Then it can become a permanent change. And so it's very important to know where to step in and where not to. And you have used very good wisdom in that, Mac.
Thank you, John. I think it's time that we allowed some of the members of the circle to ask questions.
If there are other questions, feel free.
John, I need some advice right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been experiencing pain in my abdomen for over a month,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking a lot of it is anxiety and fear for an upcoming knee replacement thing and other things. And so I'm wanting some help on what I can do to stay positive when I feel this way, and some things that I can do to help the physical part of it.
All right. Well, there's several things I can suggest. You mentioned a knee replacement?
Yes.
All right. Yes, when we have to go through different surgery and medical procedures, it can be very scary,
Thank you.
and it can be very apprehensive, and the worries can be extensive because sometimes surgery is more successful than other times. I would make some suggestions. First of all, as far as your mental and emotional situation, you might suggest that in your meditations to ask God to step in and take responsibility and for the outcome of how your surgery will go, because He can work through your surgeons and direct the right and proper procedures so that it's in His hands and it will turn out the way it was meant to be. And when you let go and let God, then His energy that actually can come in and start working to do the necessary rearrangements and adjustment energy-wise to produce the results that are appropriate and loving. The letting go is actually a very wonderful thing because you're out of control. You become more vulnerable, and that can be scary. That's going to be addressed in the message today. But being vulnerable is actually a very safe place to be because it means God's love surrounds you completely. And it is not that you're open and exposed to other things. It's you're open and exposed to love. It's the shutting down from the love that's the problem. And when you are not vulnerable, vulnerability has had a most unusual change of understanding over the years. Vulnerability is actually the safest place to be. You are in the presence of God. And that is the most protective and safe place to be. Yes, your abdomen is creating some anxiety and stress for you. And as you give it to God and know that God will take you in his arms and keep you safely throughout the necessary procedure, there is nothing to worry about, because if you stay connected in God's consciousness, you are in the presence of God and you are relaxed. As in the song you heard today, you are confident. You are confident that you are going to be okay, you are okay, and all things work for good, so that the distress doesn't have to be upsetting in your physical, that part of your system. I would also suggest there is a spiritual way to handle knee problems, and Marilyn has refused to have knee surgery because she knows today spiritually what caused the physical manifestation. And sometimes it can be a past life situation still reoccurring and coming up in the present day to be recognized and acknowledged in a conscious way. Partial, which in her case was walking across the country as Sacagawea. She claimed she was not going to do that one again. So you see it can come from past experiences. You can see that it also can come from current holding on and pride and inflexibility and afraid of moving forward in your life. So when there are identified issues that those would pertain to, and through regression or self-searching in a meditative state, asking your body consciousness, this is one thing. I'm not trying to promote Marilyn's abilities, but other people have done this too. You can talk to your body consciousness and it will tell you in regression what caused the difficulty and what the healing solution is. It's a very productive way to get to the answer and solution. Also, I can suggest that you might be available on Thursday afternoons for Max Healing, because he could help you with your knees and your abdomen pain through pranic healing, and Marilyn sometimes in regression, or rather trance, can give you, myself can give you emotional information of where some of the messages might be coming from that are, you might say, subconsciously not available yet for your awareness. So there is a variety of things that you can do to help yourself. These last decision, of course, is yours, if to proceed medically or if to allow your spiritual doctors to work through the physical doctor. That is perfectly fine. Sometimes things in physical realm can be done more easily than in the spiritual healing and spiritual surgery. So that's really an indication that you would have to make a decision about, but there are, I just wanted you to know, options and choices. And those that will work for you will feel comfortable, and you'll feel a sense of relief that, yes, this is the way I need to proceed. So medicine does not always give you other options and procedures that might be available, because they focus primarily on medications and surgery for all solutions, and don't look at emotional or spiritual answers. And so some people are unaware of thinking, oh, my emotional life is manifesting in the physical. If you are aware of Edgar Casey, he says, source is the, spirit is the source, mind is the builder, and physical is the result. So as you change your mind letting God work through your mind, but releasing the ego so that the love of God can work into manifesting into your physical well-being. That is a major way to have your life and your body restored back to its proper functioning. And we have an exercise this afternoon coming up from Archangel Ariel that can also help assist you with this. I think you'll be very pleased that you came today.
Thank you.
I hope that was helpful.
It was.
All right, we'll take one more question and then we'll go into our information that I'd like to share today.
John, if I may ask a question. I've been real concerned about this prostate situation, and I've been very thankful to Mac and Marilyn for holding me in their prayer and their healing. Linda has been very helpful in this, and other people, and I'm just so thankful, because it's real easy to let the horses get away and feel certain ways that you don't want to feel. And so the current VA doctors, they want me to get a biopsy and to find out, is it real or is it not real? Is it malignant or is it not malignant? And I'm staying away from this option if at all possible. It's usually when you have an elevated, what they call a PSA, then that is usually an indication that the doctors can come in and say, okay, well, we want to operate you, we want to do this and that. When I want to do the last event, I don't want to discount that doctors know anything, but I certainly want to go the spiritual route if at all possible. So I appreciate everything you're doing with Mac and Marilyn and Herlinda and all these people to help bring about stabilization of my body.
Well, I admire your perseverance to proceed in a way that is the most healthy and the most natural. I think that is admirable. So many people turn immediately to the medical profession, which has been distracted through information and instruction, which is not necessarily in that thinking. So I'm glad that you are looking at it from a variety of options. I would think that you might want to get the biopsy if you feel comfortable, just to have the facts, the statistics of yes, it is at this point or this stage, because then you can make a decision from reality of this is the extent of it, and now I know that, you know, where I can proceed from there. Just because you have a test doesn't mean you have to proceed further with their advice. You have a choice every time. And so just what I know today is coming out of denial and saying this is what is going on, this is realistic, this is what they've determined. You can even make some better choices with the understanding of the progression of, or lack of progression, if possible, of where it is at this point in your situation. So there's nothing wrong with a biopsy. I would just say if you are still wanting to continue in the spiritual solutions as you have been, it would just add information to be helpful for the healing that is part of what you are pursuing. So more information is always good. You see, fear comes from lack of information. So you might be mightily surprised at the work you've done already might have put some of your cancer into a regressive state or reduced at this point in time, which would be wonderful feedback for Mac. And if that is not the case, then to know that to maybe step up some issues would be important. So you see, the information can be very valuable as to progress and feedback. So the biopsy in itself is not good or bad. It's how you want to proceed after that would be another choice. So you might want to say, I'm looking for more information, and this will give me a better understanding of where I am at this point in time. This is where it is, and I don't have to feel fear that it's worse or feel fear that it's not getting better. So it might give you the information to put your mind more at ease in knowing the reality of it.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that insight.
All right.
I'm afraid that I'm not afraid. Well, I've heard there's possibilities of spreading the situation if you take the biopsy, and that's why I was saying no biopsy.
Well, if you do feel uncomfortable, I would go with your intuition. Your body is telling you the right thing to do. I'm just coming from a point of factual information can be helpful.
Yes.
However, you know, what I know today is that your body knows what's best for it. And if you did a body regression in your body consciousness, they will tell you exactly those kinds of information, if it would be helpful or not too, as far as your worries and concerns. So your body has the information. I would trust that.
Thank you.
And trust yourself. If that's really prevalent, that you really feel uncomfortable in the biopsy, then I would follow that. I know today that, you know, intellectually there is information available, but I don't choose to feel that it's best for me at this point. You have that choice, and there is always choice. And if medicine does not give you choice, that's part of their controlling the situation and trying to force their answers onto you. So follow your intuition, follow your hunch, and the knowingness inside. And sometimes what other people think you need to do isn't necessarily what fits you. And to be an individual with your own opinion of what this is what's right for me is a very courageous stand. As the song says, confidence. You have confidence today that God is healing you and working with you, and your spirit guides are there for you. Your spiritual doctor is helping your body to heal naturally at this point, and just to follow that flow of energy is very important. And if it's uncomfortable to get the biopsy, it would stop that energy that is actually working in you to heal. So I would not go against your intuition.
Thank you. That's excellent advice. And I've just, changed my life abruptly right now. The food I eat, everything that I'm doing, I'm trying to become more in harmony with a way for healing, and I couldn't be more thankful for all of the spiritual help that I've received.
Well, you are most gracious in for thanking us, but you deserve this, Arnold. You are a wonderful spiritual child of God, and you have taken steps to be responsible in this situation. We are so pleased that you have stepped up to the plate, and that you are standing up for what works for you and what needs to be done to take care of yourself, and that is admirable. So many people just continue to be a lemming and fall off the cliff in some of these situations, and if you are standing up and saying, this is what I need to do, and you are following through, and that is extremely admirable. So our hats are off to you, Arnold. Thank you for keeping up what you're doing.
Thank you, John. And maybe when I learning these different things, I can pass them on too, so I help other people.
You just hit a very, very strong chord, that this is what we're all about, is as we learn from our experience to share it with others. That is sharing energy, that is sharing spirit. You share your spirit with someone else. It's not the book knowledge that the medicine has that they think that's what's helping people, but it's your emotional, spiritual energy that you share with somebody. That's what really does healing and help for both you and the person you share it with. There's where the healings are coming from, is experiential and sharing the experience. And so as you learn in this, you might find yourself in situations where you can say to somebody, oh, I've had that experience, would you be interested in what I learned? And that's what life is about, as we blend our spirits together into the unity of all of us being one in spirit. And you are exactly right.
Thank you, John, very much.
Hey, John?
Yes.
A little information for Arnold to help him feel more comfortable with this is I work through 4 chakras, and when I'm done, I shrink the basic and root chakras so that the cancer can't draw energy through that channel. And I establish a field around the prostate using blue prana to more or less make a containment zone so that the cancer can't spread beyond that point. So we've got it pretty well localized, and we're starving it to death.
Thank you, thank you.
We have not heard from Darcy, and we would not want her to feel like she has been left out. So Darcy, do you have anything that you'd like to mention or bring up?
Oh, John, I have so many things, but, you know me, it's hard for me to ask questions. But I guess the biggest one is I want to know if I followed my right guidance in relationship to the situation today, and if I am on the right path.
Your comments are regarding the cancellation of the program?
Yes.
All right. Yes, I can explain that in a little better way for you, and you are on the right track. You see, you're dealing with some people. I try to keep things as positive as possible, but when people are dysfunctional, they tend to act out in controlling and manipulative ways. And you got caught up into their web. And by backing out, that was not part of their plan. And they canceled it to basically, you might call revenge. I don't like that word either, but that was kind of their way to react to the situation. It didn't go the way they wanted it to, so they just kiboshed the whole thing. And when you get caught up working with people that are controlling and trying to be in charge of things rather than working together cooperatively, it's very difficult to feel acknowledged, accepted, and part of. And so to your stepping back and saying, I am not going to participate in this game, in quotes, game that you're playing, was very smart on your part. It's like you did not have to people please. You did not have to jump over hoops to say, do you love me? Will you love me if I do it even though I'm really not able to follow through? I'm not capable for health reasons or whatever reasons. It doesn't matter. You do not have to complain, and you do not have to explain to them why you did not follow through. But they reacted in their, I might say, immature ways, tried to take it out on you as to be the problem for the situation, and it really was their own consequences coming back at them. So I want you to be free of knowing that you have anything wrong in doing what you've done. In fact, I applaud you that it's like you stepped out of the circle of their game and said, I'm not going to play. And that's a very good thing for them, because that means they have to learn how to change their ways from their own repercussions of what comes back to them. And hopefully they will say, oh, I need to do this different next time. So if you had continued the game, they wouldn't have changed. They wouldn't see a need to change. You have actually contributed to their recognizing, hopefully, that it didn't work well and maybe they need a different approach. So you are actually helping them in spiritual growth by being strong enough, and I commend you for this, to not just stay in there at the mercy of your taking the fall and yourself being harmed mentally or emotionally or even medically, because I know that was part of the issue.
Yes.
And so I think that you took care of yourself, and that's one thing I'd like to mention right now, is self-care is so important right now at this time of our changes of energy. Self-care is extremely important, and that's Arnold is learning self-care, which is admirable, and you are too. That's wonderful. And even Herlinda, and asking questions and looking at different solutions and options of what would work for her and the best ways possibly she can choose from. You know, this is taking care of yourself. In the old days, the people might have called it being selfish because you were looking at yourself. However, you know, that was really a twist in using words against you, because self-care is actually the healthiest thing you can do. If you don't take care of yourself, nobody else is going to. So I commend all of you. You're looking at yourselves and what is the best progress, the best way to proceed, the best solutions, the best decisions. You are becoming discerning. I want to applaud everybody in this room today for becoming so discerning and learning from how to not play the old games, but to take care of yourself. So you are all to be admired and congratulated and honored today. And I am so glad I could be here to be of help. Was that helpful to you, Darcy?
Yes, and I think the key thing here is the fact that I listened to my guidance, because I argued with them for a while because I wasn't going to back out, and they kept insisting that I did because they didn't want me back in the hospital, and they didn't quote unquote want me to be the fall guy.
Oh.
So I literally I followed my guidance, but because I love camp so much, and I see things before they're going to happen, it hurts me to know what they've done to themselves. But like my guide said, just walk away. I was not even allowed to tell them anything, to say anything about what was going to happen. They said just walk away from it.
Well,
and that's how we ended up here today, and I'm so grateful for Marilyn allowing me to come here today, because I didn't know where I was going to go, because they told me to get off camp.
well, you are well loved, Darcy, and people do care about you. And you put yourself in a room, in a situation where you could be congenial and loved and taken care of in a healthier atmosphere today because of the situation that you left. And putting yourself in a better place is so much more healthy than staying where you were. You took care of yourself in that regard also. So you are getting so that you trust your intuition, and that is the biggest lesson we all need to learn, is to trust that voice inside, that knowing, that silent voice, however it manifests in each person, the answers however they come, just to trust that. It's a message for you, and to go with it, just as Arnold's learning to trust about the biopsy information, and everyone in this room is learning to trust that all things are working the way they need to be, and they will all fall together. And this is the thing, God is good orderly direction, and when you trust and let the energy flow, it will flow into better results than you can imagine. And that's one thing we want to talk about in just a short time. So I hope that you all are working today in a way that you can better see that you have improved, and you are trusting yourselves better to be here and asking these questions. I commend you all.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
I would like to explain at this point a little bit about what's going on spiritually in our lives and in the planet, and how this is coming together. And you know that in 2012 it was the end of 26,000 years. I'm rounding that off, of course. It was the end of the old era of the third dimension. And if you notice, September is the 9th month. And we have been birthing a new life since last December. And it has probably produced itself in very unusual, unfamiliar ways in the last several months, as things and energy are changing. Mother Earth has moved into a new emotional space spiritually, into the 5th dimension. The energy of Earth has risen. The negative energy is coming up all over the place to be dispelled and released, as you notice on the news. And as you've probably noticed in yourselves, in your own body situations as you've been talking today, that's just part of the remnants of what old energy leaving your systems. And so you have been on you might say inner house cleaning out of the old energy. In each situation you have your old energy to identify and consciously release so that the new energy can flow in. And as you're doing this, it's been this is why Marilyn has been not channeling for several months, is the energy shifting and changing has been very profound. As you're leaving the fear behind of the ego, and as you're allowing more and more love to come into your life, the healing will come about. In fact, we want to express something, a new concept this afternoon. Since Mother Earth has moved into fifth dimension, rather than calling healing healing anymore, we want you to claim and recognize the wellness of your lives. Healing infers there is a lack of healing or an illness, disease. And in third dimension, in duality, that would be one way to describe an illness, is that you need healing. However, in fifth dimension, when you've moved into the oneness of God, the wholeness of who you are, the unity and cooperation of all spirit coming together, you are in the flow of wellness. Now, the little bit of trick here is that you are dispelling anything that's still blocking off that wholeness in your life and the healthiness to manifest completely. You are bringing yourself into a congruency with the energy of the earth. So your illnesses that are dissipating as you identify and take care of them, that works for you in your own individual situations, you are aligning your energy with God's energy. And that's the bottom line, is that you are eliminating, dissipating, letting the old leave, flow out, acknowledge it, and grieve it. That is very important. Many of you might have been going through a tremendous amount of grief in the last several months of the old you changing. All of a sudden you might notice your voice sounds differently, or your handwriting is different, or you're handling something differently, or you're actually handling something in a way that surprised you that was actually nicer than you thought you could be. Marilyn found herself saying something the other day. She says, oh, where did those words come from? And it was much better than what she would have said in the past. So you see, all of these things are rearranging and adjusting into the flow of energy. As Edgar Casey says, there is a river, and the river is the flow of the loving spirit of unconditional love. As you're aligning with that unconditional love of God, you are releasing anything that is still a barrier to it. And that's what you're describing today, so that you finally, your energy will match the energy of Earth, and Earth's energy will move into your energy, and the oneness will be wonderful for all of the manifestations that are coming. They will not be blocked like they have been in the past. Yeah. Abundance is coming in your life because you will be feeling abundant inside. You will manifest abundance. You will be feeling financially secure, and you will attract financial security. You see, the law of attraction is a very important law, and like attracts like. And as you're moving into this fifth dimension, as your body and your image of who you are, and your self-love and your self-respect, your self-esteem, as you're moving more and more into being the really true loving person you were created as, you are going to be attracting that wonderful, wonderful loving presence, that wonderful unconditional love where you are totally accepted for who you are. Your creativity can flow, you can share Share with others because you are coming from abundance. And the more you give, the more that will flow in. The more you help others, the more others will be there to help you. It's a two-way street. Did some of you hear that? You have to accept help from others so that when you share help with others, it's a flow. What you receive, you pass on, as Arnold was indicating earlier today. So you want to be in the flow. You want to be a conduit of that love, and you're releasing everything that blocks that, stops it, or gets in the way of it. You see, you created all of this yourself when you came to this life. And what you're talking about today is releasing your karma. Something you probably are not familiar with is karma is gravity. That's the weight that's been weighing you down. And as you release that blockage, you will feel lighter. The light of God will be able to shine. You're changing your darkness into the light. You're letting the light of God shine on those things and correcting them. And there are 4 things that I'd like to suggest as you're finishing your karma, moving into the love and oneness of God and Mother Earth. That's the Trinity. God is the Father. Mother is Earth. So we have Spirit and Earth coming together, and it creates a child. And you are that child. And you are growing into being a beautiful, bright light of God. That light will shine, it will glow, it will glisten, it will shimmer, it will be effervescent, and you will be in the light that you were created from. Archangel Ariel is going to help you accomplish that today. There are 4 things that will help you to clean up the last of the debris for your karma, for your analyzing what is still blocking you from being that totally pure light. And the first thing I'd like you to look at is taking responsibility. Whatever the situation is, it doesn't matter how devastating, how terrible that person was, how awful the situation is, to take responsibility. If it's an illness, if it's a problem with another person, if it's a job, if it's finances, whatever it is, to respond in a loving way. If you react to it in your fear, you stay a victim, and you will not be able to move into the total light. No matter what is around you, send forgiveness and love, because it is teaching you to respond in love, which is what a child of God would do. You would always offer love. If you have children of your own, you would offer love to them, even if they were in the biggest pickle. Somebody on television recently, son was in a situation where it involved some very drastic, I can't remember the typical situation. Marilyn was watching the news. She doesn't do that very often. And somebody was interviewing the family. And they were loving that son, even though he had done something drastic to put himself in jail. They were loving him. They were loving his actions. They didn't love the action, but they loved him. And that's the difference. We have looked at the behavior and then made that the person. And so just look at the person and say, I love them because they're a child of God. I just don't approve of the behavior. So you want to separate it and say, yes, that wasn't appropriate, that was hurtful, yes, that was harmful, but I am sending love to their spirit because they're a spirit of God just like I am. And you always, no matter how painful the situation, you send love, because all is in spirit, and it's all in the spirit of love. And what isn't in spiritual love is an illusion. And we have moved out of illusion by leaving third dimension. So now you can see it from a different point of view. The next part you need to remember is that you can only change yourself, which you people have come to do that today. And that is amazing. So many people will point the finger at others and say they're the blame. If they just straightened up their act, if they just acted better, no matter what they do is wrong. And I want you to know today that they are reflecting back to you what you still need to love in yourself. So not only do you send love to others through spiritually sending forgiveness, today you get to forgive yourself. Now that's easier said than done sometimes. We have been taught to be so critical of others. Marilyn's mother said to her one day, well, if I don't tell you what's wrong with you, who will? So she learned it very well, how to be very judgmental and critical of herself. And to give that up is really not that easy. It has been ingrained for years. But you see, she's learning that that's not who she really is. And so in working on releasing the old ideas and loving herself is taking time. And it will take some time for you too, probably. But to know the difference, that you are not a bad person, you are growing up in the love of God, and that makes you a mature person. You are outgrowing your childish ways, your immaturity, and it isn't the other person that's the problem. They're showing you where you still need a little bit more love for yourself, because then when you love yourself, that's what you send out to them. And that's what comes back. Like attracts like. The more loving you can be, the more loving will return. And that's who you are today, that channel of love. So be kind to yourself, be generous to yourself, honor yourself, whatever that means to you. To take care of yourself is doing that, and I commend you for taking the time, energy, and effort to look at that and honoring yourself to be healthier in whatever concern you had today. And just accept that the other people are just playing their parts for you. Another part of what I'd like you to remember is to detach. And this is part of what Darcy's learning. We look to others for our emotional security, because as little children, you need parents to nurture you, to provide for you, so you have your needs met. Now that you are mature and grown up, you can provide your needs for yourself instead of looking to others. You can find your emotional security by turning to a loving energy inside of you, a God that loves you more than you can fathom, who has been there with you throughout thick and thin ever since you became physical on this earth and ever since became a spirit or soul of the universe. That God has never left you, never will, because you are a part of it and it is a part of you. So when you detach from material or people for your security, then you actually become powerful. Do not look to others for your answers. That's third dimensional. And you have now are trying to adjust your life to be fifth dimensional. Your source is God. He meets all your needs. In the 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You are not in want of anything. The Spirit will supply. The 5,000 fish and loaves in the Bible was Spirit manifesting. Manna from heaven as they went through the desert was manifestation of Spirit. Spirit will provide. Not necessarily the way you think it will, but you will be taken care of no matter what. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, not a human being having a spiritual experience. There is a difference. You are moving into fifth dimension. You are the spirit of the world, of the universe, of God's heart. You are part of that divine energy. And it takes care of you. That energy is sustainable. So to detach from anything outside of you will allow the flow of God to move into your life. It is not a person that's going to keep you well and good for the rest, to take care of you. It is God who cares for you. And the more you let that energy flow in you and around you, the more vulnerable you become, the safer you become. Now it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's true. If you are, as Marilyn was, hiding and pretending and fearful and afraid, then she only brought more pain on herself through those people out there that were painful themselves, and it provided more pain for her. And as she gradually got more vulnerable, more open to God, forgiving them for what they were doing and making herself accessible to God's energy in her life, God's emotional support, His unconditional love that was really the reality of her life. That was the safest place she could put herself. For the first time in her life, she felt safe this week. She never even felt safe in the womb because of her mother's fear. So keeping yourself vulnerable is when you are the safest and you are in God's love. So I would encourage you to detach from anything that is not of God. At this point, there's one more point I wanted to make, and it has escaped me, which is totally unusual. I'm sure that at some point I will remember it.
John,
What?
it has been an hour.
Oh, we're doing fine today. Thank
Okay.
you for bringing that up.
Okay.
We're ready to go into Archangel Ariel coming.
Okay.
My mind is just, apparently that's not for today. So we're going to leave that for another time, and we will have Archangel Ariel come in just a minute. She is going to help you to alleviate those dark energies that are still obstructing your fifth dimensional new location, new place of residence, so that you can enjoy life knowing there's no future, there's no past, just the presence of God. And you can feel as good as you choose to feel. And that's the fifth dimension. I bid you today have a happy afternoon. Enjoy the sunlight while it's still here, and have a very happy day, knowing that you are walking out of here in a new dimension of unconditional love, where you can release all the past and move into the moment where all power resides in God's unconditional love for you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
God's
John.
your words, John, your words have been such an inspiration, and to be in that vibration is really an honor. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Ariel, and I'm so glad to be here with you today.
We're glad to have you, Ariel.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for being here, Ariel.
I love coming and giving blessings, and today the blessing I have for you will be to help you move into this new dimension that the planet has moved into, so that you can move into merging your energy and sustainable, loving energy that you truly are. So I want you just to relax, and relax wherever you're sitting. Take a big deep breath in Breathe in love of who you are and breathe out all the fear. And breathe in love and breathe out love, because that's who you are now. I would like you to visualize something that would be a laser light, a pointer that maybe looks like a ballpoint pen but has a laser light at the end of it, a tip of laser light. And I want you to think of how this laser light is going to dispel the last of the dark energy in each cell of your body. Your cells have consciousness. The cells do have emotions, memory. Old memories can be dispelled. Old emotions can be healed. And we're going to just have wellness. Your body is going to move into wellness today. So take your laser light and turn it on. Very bright, shiny, piercing light that it is. And we're going to focus it on the inside of you, starting in your head. And we're going to have it move across your face, your eyebrows, your eyes, your nose, your cheeks, your chin, your mouth area, and around the back of your head, the top of your head, all around your head, so your head and face and back of your head, all parts of your head can have a clear cleansing from this laser, beautiful, sharp laser light of purity. Purifying all the cells. Feel them rejuvenate, regenerate, and come alive, and the energy is dispelling the darkness, and all that brightness is coming into glow. All the darkness is fading away inside of your head, and shining that laser light on your brain. So your brain, you see, the ego doesn't like to be released because it doesn't have a function. If it's not protecting you, edging God out by protecting you, it thinks it's helping you. And now you can just take away its power. And the ego doesn't have to have any influence. It can be there. It can give you an identity. It can give you your soul's connection. But it doesn't have to stop that connection to God anymore. You can dispel it and remove its obstruction and deflate it so that it's right-sized. It's not out of proportion, blocking God's connection. You bring your ego into just being another part of your whole total system, which has information. It can be good, it can be not so good, and you can listen and you can choose if you want to listen to it or not. It is not going to run the show anymore. You have choice, you are discerning, and you can pick what works for you because you are moving out of your head and into your heart. It is just part of you, no bigger and no smaller, just as equal as any other part of your system. And as you're dispelling the ego in the brain so that it is coming into a positive, productive, supportive messages for you, loving, caring messages for you. The old destructive, sabotaging messages are no longer necessary. They weren't truth, they weren't real, and they're gone. And that laser light is inside of you, going through every cell of your throat, front and back of your throat. Mac, this will help your throat condition. Is it still a problem for you?
It has been, yes, John.
Well, I want you to focus this laser light on your throat where those problems are occurring so that you can dispel that old energy, okay?
I'll do that.
All right. So using this laser light of God's presence, this bright, bright light of love, purity of soul coming down through your system and affecting every cell. It's cleansing every cell of your body. Coming down into your shoulders, helping your shoulders to relax. Every cell has been carrying burdens, and they don't have to carry burdens anymore. Because God is carrying your burdens. You've given them to God. And you don't have to do it anymore. Your shoulders are free. Free of that heavy burden of what will other people say. What if I don't do this? Will they like me? All of that's unnecessary, because as Elva's saying, you have confidence today. With God, it's always confidence and courage. And always faith and trust. So you can just give up those burdens. You don't need them any longer. And that energy is shining on your shoulders so they can relax from the heavy, dense energy, that karma, that gravity that's been weighing you down. And as it goes through the front of your system, the front of your body, shining it on all the different glands of your system, your lungs, your heart, all the different parts of your body, your torso, shining that light on each cell, letting it dissipate the dark energies, bringing light into every cell so it's a happy, joyous cell, alive, healthy, functioning with love in all parts of your body. Let that laser go down your back, healing your backbone so you can stand up for yourself, healing all parts of the back muscles, all the way down your spine, into your lower back, which often can be painful if you have financial difficulties. Let that laser light just shine on those nerves. They don't have to carry the burden of your financial pains, because your needs are met in God. You don't need to worry about that today. All your cells are being dispelled inside. Let that laser light go inside each arm. You don't have to lift those burdens. You don't have to tote that barge. You can let God do it. Shining inside the cells of your elbow, your hands and your wrists, your fingers, that you may serve with purity and honesty and clarity in unconditional loving ways, that you are there to serve, that inside of both of your arms are being cleaned, every cell is being purified, into your wrists, your elbows, fingers, and your hands and arms are now clean, shiny, bright, and feel alive. And let that energy go into your upper legs, shining on the cells of your thighs, going into your knees, shining on all the cells so all the negative energy, the darkness can be dispelled into the purest light of God, into your shins, your lower legs, your ankles, feet, and toes, so that you can walk in the light of God, not only outside of you, but inside of you. The light of God inside of you now can flow to the energy that is outside of you. The light of God will radiate from you and blend and find other people of light where their energy will blend and mix with yours. And that's called love. That's being vulnerable. That's reality. Fifth dimension is your energy is so pure and wonderful and can move and merge with other people's loving energy, and it combines into unity and cooperation. Everything that you need is taken care of, and you are living in this joy and bliss, and it feels so good. And I want you to spend a minute in your fifth dimensional feelings of being cleaned, healthy, in the energy that you truly were created in. That love of God, the light of God is who you are, and you have become a light. And now as you go home today, anytime you want to revisit this experience, you have my permission. You might even want to do it on a daily basis during your meditation. It would definitely help your medical conditions, or your relationship conditions, or any other issues that you have in concern. Because what you are, you will attract. So as you change spiritually, your physical and mental situations will come into center, balance, and reality. And thank you for joining me into the fifth dimension of which you came to Earth to accomplish. I would like to say mission accomplished. Have a good afternoon, and may I wish you the best forever as you live in your eternal life. Goodbye.
Thank you, Ariel.
Thank you, Ariel.
Bless you.
Many blessings.